This is the Where the Data Lives track, and this, without further ado, is Cesar Cerrudo.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Today we'll be presenting Token Kidnapping's Revenge. The name is based on research I did before. It was named Token Kidnapping, and basically this presentation is about elevation of privileges on Windows. The main objectives of this presentation is first to show that Windows operating systems are getting better, but they still have some issues that can be exploited. Then I would like to show that finding vulnerabilities is not difficult if you know what tools to use, where to look for. And then I would like to show you how I found the vulnerabilities, so you can walk away knowing the process of finding the vulnerabilities, the tool, the techniques, and you can try it at your work or home. Well, I have my own company called Arsenis. It's a software and consulting company. I have been on the business for 8 years. Have found hundreds of vulnerabilities and near 50 on Microsoft products and near 20, including this one, on Windows operating system. This is a quick overview of what we are going to see today. Here's a quick introduction, then some theory about impersonation and tokens. Then we will see an overview of the security of services from Windows XP to Windows 7. Then I will show you a lot of demonstrations. I have some videos because doing live here will be too complex, and it's a lot of demonstration, and I don't want to have any mistake and don't miss anything. Then we see some threat scenarios where these issues, some vulnerabilities can be exploited. And finally, some recommendation, the fixes that Microsoft will provide, and the conclusions. Well, in the past, maybe you remember from Windows 2000 and before, all the services on Windows run with the highest privileges, which is the system account, the local system account. So if a service was compromised, then all the system was compromised. Then when Windows XP and 2003, Microsoft started to make some little changes. They introduced a couple of new Windows accounts named Network Service and Local Service account. So this account has less privileges than the local system account. So they try to protect more the services, so in case a service was compromised, then all the system wasn't compromised. As we are going to see, this is mostly theory, because in practice, this little protection Microsoft started to add can be bypassed, and they are not perfect. And then, starting with Windows Vista, and then with 2008 and Windows 7, Microsoft introduced many protection for services, which was a really good step forward in improving the security of the services. But as we are going to see, these protections are still not perfect, and they can be bypassed. I mean, I admit Windows has improved a lot, but there is still room for improvement. And the service security model is still not perfect. There is some small issues that must be addressed in order to have more security, to have more defense in depth. Well, let's start with what is impersonation. Impersonation in Windows is the ability that has a thread to act like it was another user, different than the user that is running the process under. So for instance, we have a process that is running on the network service account. When a thread impersonates, it can impersonate, for instance, an administrator or user Joe or any user and start acting as it is running under that user. And when the thread accesses a resource like a file or a registry key, all the ACL checks are performed against the user that is being impersonated and not against the user that is running the service, the process under. There are different impersonation APIs. You can see there we have impersonate name pipe client, impersonate login user. All these API are called, and after the call, a thread can start impersonating. In order to be able to impersonate, the user account that the process is running under has to have the privilege that is called impersonate a client after authentication. I think, if I remember well, this privilege was introduced on Windows 2000 Service Pack 4 and Windows XP Service Pack 2 or before, I don't remember well. So this is a privilege that is mostly held by user accounts that are used to run services. Also are used to run, for instance, Internet Information Service Worker process and some other special processes like Windows Management Instrumentation process, they also can impersonate. Every time a thread impersonates, it gets an associated impersonation token. What's a token? A token is a Windows object that has information about the context of a thread or a process. It has the identity of the account that is the token belongs, the privilege that the account has. The token, of course, are associated with a process or a thread. There are two kinds of tokens. We have primary tokens and impersonation tokens. The primary ones are those that are assigned to processes during process creation, are the ones that the process run under with the privileges associated with it. Then we have the impersonation tokens. These one are those that the thread gets when it starts impersonating. And there are different levels. We are going to concentrate on the security impersonation level, which are the impersonation tokens. On Windows XP 2003, the services can run on the network service, local system, and user accounts. And every service on Windows XP and 2003 can impersonate. There was a weakness I found in my previous research that was if a process was running under, for instance, a network service account, and then we have another process running under the same network service account, this process could access each other. There wasn't really a protection forbidding the access between the process running on the same account. So what Microsoft did was protecting a couple of services that impersonate high privileges account like local system account. So they created a special ACL on each process, so it doesn't matter that you have two processes running on the same account, they won't be able to access each other and get a token from the other process and elevate privileges. For instance, one of the services that was protected was RPC service. This service impersonates the system account. So now, because it's protected, it's not possible for another service running under the same account to access to it and get a system token and elevate privileges. Also, Windows management instrumentation processes are protected now because they have a weak ACL. These processes run under local service, network service, and local system account, and they all impersonate the local system account. So now they have a proper ACL, and they are protected. Well, on Windows Vista 2008 and 7, one of the new protection that was introduced by Microsoft is called per server SID. This is a really good protection. What this does is that it assigns a unique SID to the process that the service is running under and to the ACL. and it removes from the ACL the account that the process is running under. For instance, if the process is running under a network service account, the network service account will be removed from the ACL of the process. So other process running under the network service account won't be able to access this process because you don't have permission, because it was removed from the ACL. And because the unique SID, any other process won't have that, that unique SID. Besides this protection and other new protections, I found a weaknesses that consisted that the threads were properly protected with this new ACL, but the threads that were from thread pools were not properly protected. They have the default ACL. So a service that is running on the network service account wasn't able to access the process of other service running on network service account, but was able to access the thread from thread pools running on the network service account. And from there, elevate privilege, manipulating the threads. Another weaknesses was I already mentioned it, was on Windows management instrumentation processes, that they were not protected. They had the default ACL. So other processes running under the same account could access these processes and get the token from there and elevate privileges. So Microsoft fixed the issues with the thread from thread pools, assigning them a proper ACL, and also the same for Windows management implementation processes. So all the issues that I found in my previous research were fixed. So when Windows 7 was released, I think it was the release candidate, so I installed it and started to take a look at it, to find new issues, to find out if the previous issues were in fact properly fixed. So I started to play with the Process Explorer tool. I have some video demonstration here. You can see the Process Explorer tool. It will show information about all the processes running on Windows. Here in this column you have all the processes. Here you have the process IDs, the CPU usage, the description of the processes, the username that the process is running under. Then you can see if DIP is enabled, if the integrity level, if ASR is enabled or not. And then when you select any process, you can see all the handles the process has opened. You can see the token handles, you can see the thread handles. It's a nice tool. Just by doing click around, you can see a lot of information. You can see also the ACL here. We just double click over a process. We can see information about the user is running under, the privileges of the user, the ACL. And it's a very simple and powerful tool. You can also look at here you can see the TCP connections, the thread, the services. In this case, it's a SVC host process that is hosting many services. You can see the services that are running under that process. You can see the permission of the services. It's a lot of information available. It's a really powerful tool and really easy to use. Here you can see all the tokens from the service. So when I started to look at Windows 7 release candidate, I started to look around and I couldn't find anything easy to find. So I remembered that in Windows 2008, I found a little issue that is not a significant issue. It consisted of, there is a telephony service, TAPI service. This service, you can see here, is hosted in a SVC host process. And here you can see it has some process handles inside the service process. And one of the process handles, it has